morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Hot Topics Day today. Today we're talking about the science of habit change, right? And why you're always stuck.
Always
stuck. So we're going to have three main takeaways from this today. So stay tuned because we're going to talk about why your brain isn't working, right? Why it's working actually against you, and why change feels really hard, right? And how we can kind of rewire our brain to make it work. Number two is we're going to talk about small shifts, which really makes big results. So micro habits, you might have heard that catchy phrase, but it really can create massive transformations. And then accountability, which equals acceleration. So why you need really external support for lasting change. So if you are in the habit of pretending that you don't have any workable habits, this class is for you today. So again, welcome to Hot Topics. If you've ever tried to change a habit, whether it's waking up early, eating healthier, how about sticking to the gym, right? You know that it's really easier. It can be easier than you think, but the truth is most people say it's easier said than done, right? So today we're breaking down the science of habit change to understand why people stay stuck so that it can become easy to change your habits.
Absolutely. So if you've ever wondered, why do I keep falling back into these old patterns, right? You're not alone, right? We've all done it. We've all tried to make change. We didn't have the support system maybe in place or the system to fall back on or to have the clarity to move forward. You're not alone, right? But there is a formula for making habits stick. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to give you the blueprint.
Yeah. So if you're ready to really stop that cycle of starting, stopping, we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about number one, which is why your brain is working against you.
All right. So that is the harsh truth, right? Your brain is literally wired to keep you where you are. Some people go, well, that's not fair. Well, you're right. It's not, but it doesn't love change, right? Like when you do the same thing, everything's not very stressful. It's good. Your brain is happy. You're going forward, but you're not going anywhere, right? You're staying stuck, which is not good, right? It loves efficiency. It loves that familiarity. And since it doesn't love change, believe it or not, it is actually working against you. So how do we change that?
Well, it doesn't like change, right? And when you introduce a new habit initially, your brain sees it as an immediate threat, right? That's why willpower alone doesn't really work, because you're fighting against decades of those patterns, right? You see, change or anything new happening, and immediately your brain goes, no, not here, not today. I don't want to do anything new. I don't want to stretch myself, because it's much easier to do the same things you've always had done. And that's why people get stuck. It's stuck in jobs because they don't want to think outside the box.
Absolutely. But there's good news, right? Your brain is also highly adaptable. Yeah. It's called neuroplasticity.
One of my favorite words.
It basically means that you can rewire your habits for the right approach, right? So we don't have to stay stuck. We just have to push ourselves beyond that comfort zone to make sure that we can actually get things.
Yeah. And so, a lot of you are going, well, how do you rewire your habits? Well, it starts with really simple things, because you're trying to rewire your brain, right? To make it think differently. And so we're going to my trusty friend, ChatGPT, and I want you to enter this into any of your chats, whatever you have. What are 3 simple ways to rewire my brain for better habits? That's really simple. You could ask it. Remember, you said for 3. So every week, just implement one and notice if there is a difference. If you start seeing a difference, you will realize that you can change your brain and how it's wired. You just have to commit to doing it.
Absolutely. Okay. So most people fail at habit change because they go too big, too fast. Okay. How many of you out there started in January going to the gym with a plan in a month to run a marathon? It doesn't work that way. We see people at the gym who go, oh, I can finally lift, this amount of weight. Yeah. Well, it didn't happen overnight, right? And if you try to make things happen too fast, then that is a complete recipe for burnout.
Yeah, it's small shifts really are what create big results, right? So if we go back to the gym, it can take you an entire year to make the habit stick. seems daunting, but the year goes by fast. And when you look back, you go, wow, I can't believe I did all that. That's why micro habits work, right? They're small, incremental changes. They signal your brain, right, to think it's not so scary, right? This isn't a big, scary change. And maybe it is sustainable and easier than I think. I know that when I started going regularly, creating a regular path to getting better, it wasn't easy for the first couple of weeks, but I just took little baby steps. I didn't expect a lot of change. And then by the end of 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months, I was a completely different person. You can do that too. And all it requires is micro steps.
Absolutely. And I know we're talking a lot about the gym and fitness and stuff like that, but that's because that was one of our goals for 2024 was to implement more of the physical fitness into our life. So we have lots of examples of people at the gym. We see a lot of different people at the gym too who get really discouraged because they're not reaching those goals as fast as they want, right? And that's why inside the Ultimate Life Reset, I'm getting tangled in my words. Apparently I need more coffee. We teach the 1% rule. And this one's really important because it doesn't overwhelm you so much. It's just to improve 1% each day. And again, over time, those tiny changes can make a huge difference and they turn into massive transformation.
Just think about it. If you can just improve 1% every day for a year, 1%, teeny tiny little step, right? You're 37 times better than when you started, right? And that's massive. That's why systems work more than motivation. There's a lot of people who are motivated, right? Like think about, and we talk a lot about exercise and that, so it's clear to understand. So we're in Canada, so think about hockey players, right? There's a lot of hockey players that are motivated, right? But motivation doesn't make them better. The system that they have, whether it's their training system, whatever they've put around them to get them better, that's what works. It's the system. You can have 10 motivated kids. It's the one that masters the system to get better that makes it. So if you're still uncomfortable, you can go back to Chachi and ask it straight out. Give me a micro habit that will help me achieve whatever goal you're looking for effortlessly, right? And then you can go ahead and start it today. So it's going to give you a micro habit. You might say, give me 3 micro habits. And then after you realize it works, you might ask for 10, right? So whatever it is, take a chance and say, yeah, I'm going to start slow, 1%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And number 3 is all about accountability, right? We talk about this a lot, but it is true. And this stat blew my mind. You are 65, I'm going to read this one. So you're 65% more likely to achieve your goal if you commit to someone else. Mm-hmm. Just think about that for a second, right? Again, we are more likely to reach our fitness goals because we're committed to each other, right? Are you going? Again, that accountability has been huge. So just imagine your business goals, your personal goals, whatever you want to achieve. If you have weekly accountability check-ins with people who have your back, who are also going on the same journey that you're going on, guess what? It jumps to 95%. That is huge.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. And, you know, it is something that you can't really ignore, right? You can't ignore the fact that that makes a massive difference. Yeah. And that's why you need to be accountable to somebody. And that's why community really works, right? When you try to change alone, your brain will just come up with excuses. For those of you who are in our Life Map Navigator, you'll know our excuse shirt, our loser wall, a bunch of other things that we do. But when you're checking in, you show up differently. So for example, I'm going to ask you a question. Does somebody ever ask you, say you've said you're going to do something, like you might have said, I'm going to walk every day. Has anyone ever said, how's that walking going? And then all of a sudden, if you haven't been doing it, what happens? You get your back up, you get either angry or you deflect or you change it or you make excuses. That's not that person. That's you. And what's happening is you're being held accountable, right? And you don't like it. right? So if you actually do what you're going to do and have somebody weekly ask you, how's it going? Then you're going to be more apt to do it because you know that you're going to be called up on it. And that's what happens in our weekly coaching sessions, right? Our clients and our community come in and we call them on it. We call them and say, hey, how's it going? You said you were going to launch. You didn't launch. You said you were going to do this. You didn't do this. Then they have to come up with reasons. And that's not being, we're not trying to be aggressive. We're trying to help them be accountable to themselves.
Absolutely. I think that's where structured accountability comes in, right? Because people think maybe if they have a friend, and they can go to that friend and they can say, hey, like, can you keep me accountable? So what ends up happening is, 3 months later, your friend will say, hey, how's that, whatever, walking going? And you're like, oh, I haven't really done it. And the friend is blindly, quote unquote, supportive because the friend will say something like, oh, it's okay. You'll get back on track. Don't worry about it. You've got this. They're saying all the encouraging words and you think that you're being accountable, but you're not, right? And that's why when you go through with a community that has the same goals that you do, although not personal goals, but they have the same structure that you're going through. You have coaching, you have community. When they're on that same journey, you see results. And that's the big thing about structured accountability versus just saying, hey, can you check in with me once a week, friend, and see how it's going? No, you need someone who's going to hold you accountable. And that's why the program works.
So our last podcast episode, we asked this question. We asked you to ask yourself this question. Who am I accountable to for my goals? Did you answer? Were you listening last week? Because if the answer is no one, then it's time to find that support system to keep you accountable, right? So if you're listening to this and thinking, I need to do this differently, now is the time, right? So our Ultimate Life Reset is designed to really give you a clear, structured path to breaking old habits, old patterns, finally seeing that lasting change that you really want to accomplish. So if you're sitting here going, I really should do this, and then you're going to shut our podcast and not listen anymore, you're not going to do anything. So you need to take that first step, whether it is joining us in our free community in the Ultimate Life Reset or just finding accountability somewhere, you need to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Ultimate Life Reset is open, ultimatelifereset.com, only for limited time. So if you're serious about actually creating transformation this year, don't wait.
Yeah, it starts March 5th. It's 90 days, and you will be with us every single week. So you'll be coaching, you'll be learning, and we're going to hold you accountable for those 90 days. So if you need somebody to hold your hand and tell you, you need to do this, this is the program for you.
Absolutely. Let's do this together.